Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. So welcome dear devotees once again to Srila Rupa Goswami's Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. And I'm so happy that we are almost halfway through. There are 11 verses and we have completed 5. So we are almost halfway through. And once we complete the 6th verse, we'll be clearly halfway through, dear devotees. And I'm very happy that we gave sufficient time to discussing all the aspects of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam in detail. And of course, Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam is so unlimited that there is scope for further elaboration. But still, as much as possible, we have discussed the aspects of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam in detail. And today, Sri Rupa Goswami is going to further reveal a new verse, a new aspect to understand in our devotional lives. Because in the previous verse, we had studied that different devotees in the Vaishnava society should be given respect according to different degrees of advancement in their bhajan. This was about respect. But what about disrespect? What about seeing the faults? In a Vaishnava society, since there are many individuals involved, therefore, there is a possibility that we might also start noticing the faults in those individuals. When that happens, we should not be oblivious to the faults and say artificially that no faults exist in the Vaishnava society. Sri Rupa Goswami does not want us to be artificial. Sri Rupa Goswami wants us to acknowledge that definitely there are faults in the individuals who are present in the society of Vaishnavas. But those faults have to be understood in a specific context. So it's not that no faults exist. Sri Rupa Goswami will also acknowledge that faults do exist. But then he will change our perception towards the faults. So we will begin, dear devotees, our presentation on Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. This is session number 30. And I'm very happy that we have covered 5 verses in 29 sessions, and this is the 30th session. Before we begin, I would like to offer a fresh verse composed in the honor of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. Rasasyorjita bhaktescha premanaschaivamritasya cha adyavarnan samahritya rupam chakre hari swayam. Taking the initial letters. Ra from rasa. U from urjita bhakti or glorious devotion. Pa from prema, love of Godhead. And A from amrita, nectar. And combining these letters, Shri Hari himself manifested Rupa, our Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. So dear devotees, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada is the personification of all these wonderful aspects of the spiritual world. Rasa, urjita bhakti, prema and amrita. Dear devotees, this verse is offered in the glorification of Srila Rupa Goswami. Now, before we move ahead, we have to introduce the verse. And the introduction of the verse is done by the Sanskrit commentator Sri Radharaman Goswami. As I said, there are 3 prominent commentators previous acharyas who have commented upon Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. First is the Sanskrit commentary by Sri Radharaman Goswami. Second is the commentary by Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura. Third is the commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, Sri Radharaman Goswami says, Prakritike loke tadvad acharena bhaktasya prākṛtatva jnanepi na tad drishtir vidheya ityaha drishtairiti. Prakritike loke tadvad acharena. He says, due to acting in the framework of the mundane world. Dear devotees, he is highlighting that the fault is with the framework of the mundane world. Please try to understand. The main fault is in the framework in which we are operating. So, due to acting in the framework of the mundane world, we may sometimes perceive some apparent mundaneness, prākṛtatvam, in the devotees. Even though this is the case, we must never seriously think of them as mundane materialists. This is explained in the current verse. So Sri Radharaman Goswami elegantly introduces the verse. Because sometimes we see a devotee who is acting in the framework, the defective framework of this material world. And then we apparently perceive some mundaneness in the devotee. And then we start thinking, oh, he is just like a mundane materialist. So this perception should not be there, dear devotees. So this is explained in the current verse. So we may see some discrepancies. So we cannot become blind to the discrepancies. But on seeing the discrepancies, we should not attribute mundaneness to the character of the devotee. This is explained in the current verse. Sri Rupa Goswami introduces the sixth instruction. I will sing this instruction. Drishtai svabhava janitair vapushascha doshair na prākṛtatvam bhakta-janasya pashyet Gangam bhasam na khalu budbudapena pankair brahmadravatvam apagacchati niradharmai. This particular verse is in the same meter as the previous verse, 14 syllables per line. Meter is named Vasanta Tilakam. So how do we identify the meters? So for identifying the meter, we just take one line and we identify the Guru and Laghu, the heavy and light syllables. Heavy syllables take double the amount of time, 2 eye blinks, and light syllables take 1 eye blink. So Guru syllables, heavy syllables take 2 eye blinks to pronounce. Laghu syllables take only 1 eye blink. So I have marked the Guru syllables in yellow and Laghu syllables are not marked. So Drishtai Svabhavajanitai Vapushascha Doshai. So these are 14 syllables and every line has the same pattern. This meter is named Vasanta Tilakam. So this is the meter of the current verse, verse number 6. Having understood how to sing the meter and what is, what are the arrangement of the Laghu and Guru, of the heavy and the light syllables, we move ahead and try to do a simple anvaya. Anvaya means a simple word arrangement of the verse so that we can easily derive a plain vanilla translation of the verse. So, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, the verse is in front of us. I will show the word for word meaning. You please recite only the English and you kindly check if all the terms are covered in the translation. Right?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Iha.
In this world.
Drishtai.
Due to seeing.
Doshai.
The faults.
Svabhava janitai.
Arising out of the nature.
Cha.
Or.
Vapushaha.
The body of the devotees.
Na.
One should never.
Pashyet.
perceive
prākṛtatvam,
mundaneness.
bhakta-janasya,
In relation to them, these devotees are
khalu,
just like
Ganga ambhasam,
the waters of the Ganga
na
that never
apagacchati,
give up
brahma dravatvam,
their status as spiritual liquid
niradharmai,
merely due to the presence of apparent faults of water.
budbuddha phena pankai.
For example, bubbles, foam, and dirt.
All right. So, Prabhu, in this sequence, just read the English.
In this world, due to seeing the faults arising out of the nature or the body of the devotees, one should never perceive mundaneness in relation to them. These devotees are just like the waters of the Ganga that never give up their status as a spiritual liquid merely due to the presence of apparent faults of water like bubbles, foam, or dirt.
All right. So, we have a complete sentence. Did we miss any term, Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji.
All right. So, we have all the terms and we have rearranged them to form a legible English sentence. We have performed anvaya of the verse. So, now we understand each and every term. In order to understand a verse, it is important to understand each and every term of the verse. And then to understand where that particular term fits in the anvaya of that particular verse. Now we can form a complete image in the mind. Otherwise, if even a single term is not known to us, then we have not completely understood the verse. So this technique of performing anvaya is how traditionally all the learned devotees used to understand each and every verse of the Shastra. So this is how we are also trying to understand Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. This is the translation. In this world, due to seeing the faults arising out of the nature or body of the devotees, one should never perceive mundaneness, prākṛtatvam, in relation to them. These devotees are just like the waters of the Ganga that never give up their status as a spiritual liquid merely due to the presence of apparent faults of water such as bubbles, foam, and dirt. So this is what Sri Rupa Goswami is trying to tell us in this particular verse. I would like to highlight the term prākṛtatva. Prakrita means mundane or material, made out of prakriti. Prakriti is material nature. So prakrita is what is related to prakriti or material nature. So prakrita means material or mundane, and prakrtatva, when the suffix tva is added, it means ness. In English, the suffix ness gets added. So mundaneness. One should never perceive mundaneness in relationship with the devotees. Having said that, we will hear the instructions given by the previous acharyas on this particular verse. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura Mahashay, in his commentary on this verse, he says that it is not at all appropriate to perceive mundaneness in a pure devotee by observing faults in them. So, Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura is specifically saying about the pure devotee. Srila Rupa Goswami had said bhakta-janasya. Bhakta-janasya means for any devotee in general, don't perceive. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura says specifically in relationship to a pure devotee, one should not observe any faults. Then he says, it should be noted that the pure devotee does not have major faults in them. What are the major faults? Kusanga, bad association, nama aparadha, etc. What Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura says is, he does not have any faults which will disqualify them from Vaishnavism. Especially they don't have faults which are of a criminal nature. So these faults will not be found in pure devotees. However, he says even a pure devotee may exhibit two types of faults. Vapusha, related to the body, and Swabhava Janitai, related to their nature. He says faults of the body, Vapusha, What are these faults? Dirtiness. Sometimes we may see that their body is slightly dirty, or pain. We may see them to be in some sort of pain sometimes, deformities, old age, etc. These are faults of the body. Faults of the nature, swabhava janitai, include harshness, laziness, etc. So these are faults of their swabhav. So two types of faults: faults related to their nature, faults related to their body. And he says, just as the waters of the Ganga do not give up their nature as a spiritual liquid simply due to the presence of apparent faults such as bubbles, foam, dirt, etc. Similarly, the pure devotees are not affected by such apparent faults. Those who are advancing in their bhajan will not see faults in pure devotees and will thus avoid aparadhas. So this is his commentary, the sum and substance of what Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura wishes to say. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, on similar lines, says one should not perceive mundaneness in the pure devotees by seeing temporary faults in them related to their nature or their body. Then, for the pure devotees, he quotes two verses from the Bhagavad Gita. These verses are meant to be used in the context of such pure devotees. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mamananya bhag sadhureva samantavyah samyak vyavasito hi sah kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So these are verses from the Bhagavad Gita we have heard quite a few number of times. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur highlights the fact that there are some individuals who are discriminating by birth. And then he points out that there may be individuals who are born in Goswami Vamsha. At the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, initiation in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya was only possible if you took initiation in one of the Goswami Vamsha or Goswami families. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew that such an arrangement is not conducive to the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is different. That any personality who knows the science of Vaishnavism and who is an Uttam Adhikari should be qualified as a guru. But there was discrimination going on the basis of birth, because there were some individuals who were saying that only individuals born in Brahmana families are qualified to become gurus. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in the purport to this verse that somebody may be born in a Goswami Vamsha or a Brahmana family, but if they are not exhibiting the qualities of a Uttam Adhikari Vaishnava, then one should not falsely attribute these qualities of a Vaishnava to them. And if somebody is born in another family, even in a family which is traditionally considered as low birth, still if they have the qualities of an Uttam Adhikari Mahabhagavata Vaishnava, they should not be discriminated based on their vapuhu dosh. Vapuhu dosh means fault of the body being born in a lower varna or a lower status of society. So that is a bodily fault, because that fault arises with the birth of the body. One's family, one's lineage, one's varna, they are all decided basically as soon as the material body begins in the womb of the mother. But all these faults should not be considered, as signs of mundaneness in the devotees. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this. And on the other hand, he also warns those devotees who may try to take undue advantage of this. Somebody may not be born in a Goswami family, but may be born in another family, but may be appointed as guru. But if they are not truly living up to the standard of the guru, then they should not be given that particular respect, dear devotees. So this is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said. Now a doubt arises. The doubt is, the verse says, Na prākṛtatvam iha bhakta-janasya pashyet. Do not perceive mundaneness in the devotees. A doubt is, Sri Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam himself has said that there is mundaneness in the devotees, some devotees. And where does he say? In the 11th canto, when he is describing the highest Uttama Bhagavat, Madhyama Bhagavat, and then the lowest category of devotees when he describes the lowest category of devotees using the following verse. Archayameva haraye pujam yah shraddhaye hate na tad bhakteshu chanyeshu sa bhaktah prākṛtah smritah. Now you can see here, sa bhaktah, that devotee, is which devotee? Prakrita. Rupa Goswami is saying na prakrita, not prakrita, no mundaneness. Sri Vyasadeva is saying sa bhaktah prakrita smrita. One particular category of devotees is to be known as prakrita. So let's see the translation. A devotee who faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple but does not behave properly towards other devotees or people in general is called a prakrita bhakta and is considered to be in the lowest position. So here Sri Vyasadeva says is to be called a prakrita bhakta, and Sri Rupa Goswami is saying na prākṛtatvam. Don't see the devotees as prakrita. Both instructions are at odds. Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu, what should we do in such a situation where two instructions are colliding with each other?
We'll have to find a harmonizing principle, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. So Sri Rupa Goswami says in Laghu Bhagavatamritam, Virodho vakyayor tatra na apramanyam tadishyate yatha aviruddhata cha syat tadarthah kalpyate tayo. Virodho vakyayor yatra. If there are two statements from two authorities that conflict with each other, na apramanyam tadishyate. Don't discard one of the statements as inauthentic. Because by discarding any one of the statements, we are discarding our own Guru Parampara. And by discarding our own Guru Parampara, we are proving ourselves to be non-bona fide. So we cannot do that. We have to respect the statement of Sri Vyasadeva, who is saying that Archayam eva haraye. Sri Vyasadeva is describing one type of devotee. He says the very, the basic devotee, the devotee who is in the lowest category, Archayam eva. He has faith only in the deity. He sees Bhagavan to be present only in the deity. He doesn't see Bhagavan to be present in other entities. What other entities is Bhagavan present in? The Acharya says Suryadi. Bhagavan is present also in the sun. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan has specified many locations of his existence. So, Pranavaha Sarva Vedeshu, amongst all the Vedas, he says, I am within the Omkar, the Pranav. So, Vedanam Samo Vedosmi. Amongst all the Vedas, I am the Sam Veda. He also says that. So, many places are there. Ashwathaha. I am the Ashwatha tree, the people tree, amongst all the trees, he says. So, many places of Bhagavan's existence are there. But this new devotee, he does not see Bhagavan in all these places. He sees Bhagavan only when he goes to the temple. When he dresses up nicely in dhoti kurta or sari and then they go to the temple, that is the only time when they are seeing Bhagavan, according to them. Pujam yah shraddhaya ihate. And faithfully he only renders service to that deity. Na tad bhakteshu cha anyeshu. Does not see the presence of Bhagavan in the devotees of Bhagavan. Does not see that Bhagavan is situated in the hearts of the devotees and in the hearts of the devotees, Bhagavan himself is watching. So does not respect the devotees. Tad bhaktaha, sabhaktaha, prakrtah smritah. That devotee is known as prakrita. Prakrita means mundane, as I explained. Now, if you see the Sanskrit, it says Prakrita Bhakta. So this gives rise to a doubt. Therefore, the Acharyas give an answer. Whenever there is a doubt, we should refer to the previous Acharyas' commentaries. The most authentic original Sanskrit commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam is Srila Sridhar Swami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has glorified Srila Sridhar Swami like anything. He says, Sridhar Swami Guru Kari Mani, Sridhar Anugata Karo Bhagavat Vyakhyan. That Jagat Guru, he says Sridhar Swami is Jagat Guru. According to him, you should explain Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Sridhar Swami comments on this verse and he says, Prakrtah equal to, it means Prakrta Prarambha. Of course, there's no equal to in those days. I have put the equal to, but he's explaining the meaning of the term Prakrita. He says Prakrtah Prakrta Prarambha. He says the term Prakrtah means that such a devotee has begun the process of bhakti. Adhunaiva prarabdha bhakti. Shanair uttamo bhavishyati iti artha. Gradually, such a devotee will become uttama, that is a devotee of the highest caliber. So, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, how did Srila Sridhar Swami interpret the term Prakrita?
He changed the meaning from mundane to beginner.
Wonderful. So, he did not change the meaning. He specified that meaning because you cannot change a meaning. The meaning is always there. It has to be, the meaning has to be there in the dictionaries. The meaning cannot be changed. So, the meaning has to be listed in one of the authentic dictionaries. So, Srila Sridhar Swami says here, although one meaning of Prakrita is mundane, but in this context, you cannot take Prakrita as mundane. You have to take Prakrita as Prarabdha Bhakti or somebody who has begun, a beginner. Now, somebody may ask, Srila Sridhar Swami, you have given this meaning, but this meaning also has to be justified from the authentic dictionaries. So, although Srila Sridhar Swami's word is enough for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but there may be somebody who may not believe in what Srila Sridhar Swami is saying. So, the sub-commentator on Sridhar Swami's commentary, there is a sub-commentator on Srila Sridhar Swami, his name is Sri Vamsidhara Sarma. And Sri Vamsidhara Sarma quotes a lexicon, a dictionary. He says, Prarambhe guna samye cha svabhave prakriti kritau mukhye bahukritau mule karane cha nirudyame. He says, prakritihi. You can see in the second line, prakritihi, the term. He says the term prakritihi is used to denote the following meanings. Prarambhe, beginning. This is the meaning that we wanted. Guna samye. Prakriti is also used to refer to the original state of material energy when the three modes are in equilibrium. So this is also another meaning of Prakriti. Then Swabhave, an individual's nature is also known as Prakriti. I would say no, his Prakriti is soft, his Prakriti is harsh. So Prakriti also means an individual's nature. Kritau, any material creation is also known as Prakriti. Mukhye, the foremost amongst any group is also known as Prakriti. Bahukritau, in thoroughly doing something, that is also known as Prakriti. Mule karane, and the original cause of something is also known as Prakriti, and Nirudyama, effortless action, is also known as Prakriti. So this is from the Bhavartha Deepika Prakash commentary. Now we want the term Prarambhe. We want this meaning, beginning. And this was the meaning that Srila Sridhar Swami used. So all the Acharyas, Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, follow this meaning of Srila Sridhar Swami. When Vyasadeva says Prakrita Bhakta, it does not mean mundane devotee. It means beginner devotee. So once again, this is the correct interpretation. A devotee who faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple, but does not behave properly towards other devotees or people in general, is called a Prakrita Bhakta. And now I have added something, a beginner in bhakti, and is considered to be in the lowest position. Now, we are not seeing any mundaneness in the devotee. We are just saying that the devotee is a new devotee. So, Prakrtah means beginner. Prakrtah here also does not mean mundane or materialistic. Now we have resolved the apparent contradiction. Having done that, dear devotees, now we have to try and understand something. We have a particular nature that since the beginning of our devotional lives, we have seen all perfect personalities. All perfect personalities. And we have gotten used to this perfection, seeing perfection in the devotees of the Sampradaya. I will ask a query, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu, and you kindly answer with yes or no. All right?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu perfect?
Yes.
Does he have any faults?
No.
His disciple, Sri Rupa Goswami, is he perfect?
Yes.
Does he have any faults?
No.
His disciple, Sri Sanatana Goswami, is he perfect?
Yes.
Does he have any faults?
No.
Sri Jiva Goswami, is he perfect?
Yes.
His disciple, let's say Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan or Sri Narottam Das Thakur, is he perfect?
Yes.
All the way down to, let's say, Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan, is he perfect?
Yes.
Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura, is he perfect?
Yes.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur,
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada,
Yes.
and Bhakta Joe.
I don't know Bhakta Joe, Prabhuji.
Oh, Krishna Chaitanya. Suddenly, something changed. So what changed, dear devotees, at this point of time? Till now, we are used to seeing the entire parampara as a set of all perfect individuals who never had any faults in them. And this is how the entire parampara is presented to us. But suddenly, we see individuals who are contemporaries. And when we see individuals who are contemporaries, devotees who are contemporaries, we suddenly start seeing less than perfect qualities within them. Although it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are many followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who also had physical disabilities, many associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One of them was named Bhagavan Acharya. So Bhagavan Acharya, it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that he had a physical disability. Now, even though he had a physical disability, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu, is Bhagavan Acharya perfect?
Yes.
Of course. So, why is it so that we are not perceiving any faults in the body or character of these previous devotees? But when it comes to the devotees of the current, or the contemporary generation, we suddenly start perceiving faults. And the answer I had given in the previous sessions of Upadeshamritam, where I had quoted Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura from Jaiva Dharma, where he says, people have greater faith in personalities who have left this world. But people do not have same faith in sadhus who are still physically present on this planet. Because of this, we see this, difference of perception, that we see the devotees who have left this world as all perfect, but we see contemporary devotees as not so perfect. Now, moving ahead, if we try to see, Sri Rupa Goswami has categorized faults into two types, Swabhava Janita and Vapushaha. Now, I would like all of you to do a very simple exercise. Sri Rupa Goswami has given two categories of faults here. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami elaborates upon these faults in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that although there can be unlimited faults in an individual, in the major faults are 18 faults. So Sri Rupa Goswami has listed 18 faults in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I would like all of you to do a simple exercise. In your mind, please think of the best, the purest devotee that you can think of. And please also think of Bhakta Joe or Bhakta Bob, whom we may think of as being full of faults. So please see all these varieties of devotees, right? Starting from the purest devotee that you can ever imagine in the Sampradaya. And please try to, ask this one question, that whether these faults are present in these devotees. So what are these 18 faults? Sri Rupa Goswami says, Mohastandra Brahmo Ruksha Rasata Kama Ulbana Lolata Madamatsarye Himsa Kheda Parishramam Asatyam Krodha Akanksha Ashanka Vishwa Vibramah Vishamatvam Parapeksha Dosha Ashtadashodita. Ashtadashodita, 18 faults are mentioned. What are the 18 faults? And these are 18 major faults, dear devotees, because minor faults there can be unlimited, but 18 major faults. And try to ask the question whether these faults were present in the highest personality that you can think of, down to the lowest personality that you can think of. These are in the Vishnu Yamal as follows. First, Moha, perplexity. Second is Tandra, sleep. Rameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu, does the pure devotee sleep?
Yes.
Oh, that is a fault, Prabhu. Prabhu, Brahma, sometimes making a spelling mistake, etc. Is it possible in the case of pure devotees?
Yes.
Ruksha Rasata, harshness of behavior. Is it possible sometimes in the case of pure devotees?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Kama Ulbanaha, troublesome lust. Is it possible in the case of pure devotees?
Bilvamangala Thakur.
Oh, wonderful. Lolata, fickleness of mind. Is it possible in the case of pure devotees?
Bharat Maharaj.
Wonderful. Mother, intoxicated behavior. Is it possible in the case of pure devotees?
Yes.
Okay. Matsarya, himsa. Matsarya is envy. Himsa is violent behavior. Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, when did we see himsa or violent behavior in a pure devotee?
I'm not sure, Prabhuji. Oh, Dhruva Maharaj.
Yes, wonderful. When Dhruva Maharaj slaughtered all the yakshas, almost all of them, and all the great personalities, Manu Maharaj, Brahmaji had to come and stop him. Himsa, kheda, dejection. Have we seen kheda or dejection in a pure devotee?
Srimati Radharani.
Okay. Srimati Radharani. Somebody can say, oh, well, she's a Siddha. Siddha means she's from the spiritual world. We want a Sadhaka. Sadhaka means somebody who's still a
That was a prakrtah Baba, so
yeah.
That's not what you're looking for, I understand.
Yeah. Kheda, dejection. Many times, there may be dejection in the pure devotee also, because they may not be able to render some service to Bhagavan for some reason. So some kheda may arise. Parishrama, fatigue due to overwork. Asatya, lying. Prabhu, do pure devotees lie sometimes?
I think you gave an example of one of the Goswamis.
Yeah.
Also Parikshit Maharaj.
Right. Did Yudhishthir Maharaj lie once on the orders of Sri Krishna?
I'm sorry, not Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj.
Yeah, Yudhishthir Maharaj. So Yudhishthir Maharaj also. Yeah. Krodha is also sometimes seen. Akanksha, expectation to obtain an object of desire. This is also seen. Ashanka, doubt or concern. Vishwa Vibhrama. Sometimes the pure devotee is seen to indulge in worldly activities. Many times. For example, there was Sri Yamunacharya, who was once gifted the entire half of the kingdom. And then for a long time, he seemed to be indulged in worldly activities, apparently. And vishamatva, partiality. Sometimes the pure devotee may show partiality towards one individual. And parapeksha, dependence on others. Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, is the pure devotee dependent on others sometimes? Or
Yes.
okay, all right. So in this way, all these faults may be apparently seen in the pure devotee. Now, when these faults are seen in the pure devotee, do we consider these faults as very significant, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji.
We don't see these faults as very significant, and we ignore these faults. But when it comes to those who are not pure devotees, do we ignore these faults easily, or do we sometimes take these faults too hard?
We take them very seriously.
We take them very seriously. And there is a reason for that. And why do we see the faults of others as something very serious, especially the faults of contemporary devotees as something very serious? Rameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu, let's try to go slightly deeper into this. What is it about the faults of others that makes us, indulge in these faults? What is so attractive about the faults of others?
It could be a lot of reasons. Maybe one is it makes us feel better about our own faults.
Wonderful. So one of the reasons of inquiring into or getting into other people's faults is that it makes us feel secure that, if this particular person has so many faults, I am at least allowed to have these many faults. So it makes us feel secure about being in the material world, and it makes us feel accepted in our own eyes. So this is the reason why sometimes devotees, they like to find faults in others and perceive others as mundane or materialistic. Dear devotees, these faults are 18 major faults, and minor faults there may be unlimited. And none of us can deny the fact that at least one of these faults is also seen in the case of a pure devotee. Now, why do even pure devotees display these faults? Why can't pure devotees be free from these faults? If a question is asked, why can't pure devotees be free from these 18 so-called apparent faults? The answer to this question is that these faults cannot be eliminated because the pure devotee is also operating in a defective framework. The defective framework that the pure devotee is operating in is the material world. And the framework of the material world is defective. And because the framework of the material world is defective, therefore, sometimes, even if the devotee is pure, the jivatma, the soul is pure, still due to being placed in a defective framework, many faults arise. And this is explained in the Ayurveda Shastras. Charak Muni specifies in Ayurveda Shastra that there is something which causes faults. What causes faults? He says in his Caraka Samhita, Vayuhu pittam kafaschoktah shariro dosha sangraha manasah punaruddishto rajascha tama evacha. Vayuhu pittam kafaschoktah. So, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, have you heard of kapha, vata and pitta?
Yes, Prabhuji.
These three are known as something in Ayurveda. Have you heard what they are known as in Ayurveda? Kapha, vata and pitta.
The three different types of substance in the body.
Okay, there is a technical Sanskrit name for it. It is called dosha. Kapha dosha, vata dosha, pitta dosha. The body is composed of actually three doshas. The composition of the body is of three doshas. Therefore, in Ayurveda, if any one of them is aggravated, the body starts showing a fault. If pitta dosha is aggravated, the body starts showing faults such as skin diseases. If Vata dosha is aggravated, you will have joint pain. If Kapha dosha is aggravated, you will have many disorders of the nervous system. So, there are, all these are three are known as doshas. These three doshas balance each other out in somebody whose body is perfect. But still, if even one of these doshas is aggravated, you will have a bodily fault. Vapushaha dosha, the first category of fault that Sri Rupa Goswami was speaking about. And he says, Manasaha punaruddishto rajascha tama evacha. He says the cause of bodily defects are the three main doshas. What are the three main doshas according to Ayurveda? Vata, Kapha, and Pitta. And the cause of faults of the mind are Rajoguna and Tamoguna, mode of passion and mode of ignorance. So different modes cause different devotees sometimes to be affected temporarily. Sometimes that causes Swabhava dosha, some faults in their behavior. And these faults not only overtake pure devotees, sometimes even great personalities like Bhagavan Shiva, Bhagavan Brahma, temporarily, they are overtaken by these modes. So if Shiva and Brahma are overtaken by these modes, and Brahma is the original Acharya of the Sampradaya, Lord Shri Bhagavan Shiva is Acharya of another Vaishnava Sampradaya. These are the founders of Vaishnava Sampradayas. If they are overtaken sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, by Raja and Tamaha, what to speak of other pure devotees? Sometimes it may be possible. But does that Rajoguna and Tamoguna prevail over their mind permanently? No. Quickly, they become cleansed of this Rajoguna and Tamoguna and they become situated in Shuddha Sattva again. So therefore, dear devotees, the cause of the faults is mainly the framework of the material world. And since the framework itself is defective, therefore there is no use of trying to permanently ascribe these faults upon the devotee. This is what Sri Rupa Goswami is trying to tell us here. Having said this, Sri Vyasadeva says in the Mahabharata that if we try to see, faults will be found in each and every one. And he quotes a verse. In the Mahabharata, he writes a verse. Shucherapi hi yuktasya dosha eva nipatyate munerapi vanasthasya swani karmani kurvatah utpadyante trayah paksha mitro dasina shatravah. He says, no matter how pure and diligent a person is, there are people who will find faults with him. In the next part of the lecture, I will specify how you can find faults even with good qualities. This will be taken up in the next part of the lecture. But no matter how pure and diligent a person is, there are people who will be fault finders. Even for a peaceful sage who is executing his dharma while residing in the forest, it is seen that the surrounding people start organizing themselves in three groups. What are the three groups? Friends, neutral people, and enemies. And those who are enemies, they are devotees. They will naturally start finding faults. And what to speak of faults in a pure sage living in the forest? People will find faults with great personalities too, with acharyas. So even if we try to escape to a forest, there will be some people who will identify us. They will try becoming our friends, or some will become enemies, etc. This is the nature of the world. And what to speak of great sages or great acharyas or Brahma and Bhagavan Shiva? Even in Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who is Dina Bandhu, who is friend of the fallen, there was one person who dedicated his life to finding faults in Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So even in Sri Krishna, there was Shishupal, whose sole purpose of life was to find faults in Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Dear devotees. Now, if faults can be found even with Sri Krishna, then Kimuta, it's called Kaimutyanaya, what to speak of? This is called Kaimutya Nyaya, when we say what to speak of. So if faults can be found even with Sri Krishna, then what to speak of? Faults with pure devotees. And then what to speak of? Faults with the newcomer devotee. Obviously, we will see these faults. Now, therefore, we should remove this image of absolute perfection that exists in our mind. Because absolute perfection is not possible in this world simply because the framework of the world is defective. The framework itself is defective. I'll give you another example. See, there is, in this material world, there is one language which has come from the spiritual world. That language is Sanskrit. If you see Sanskrit, 1,000,000 years ago, the language was the same. Even today, the language is the same. The language does not change. The language is all perfect. You cannot find a flaw in that particular language. But you cannot say the same about other languages in the material world. For example, there may be a very diligent author who may write his books in English. Rameshwar Mahaprabhu, Shakespeare wrote his works in English, and Shakespeare was very diligent to maintain the meter, the ornaments of speech, figures of speech, etc. Today, can you or me, who know English in, who know American English or Indian English, can we read Shakespeare directly?
No, it becomes very difficult to understand the passages.
So, why is it so, Prabhu, that it is difficult to understand the passages written just a few hundred years ago?
Because the language has evolved and changed.
Oh, you see, this is the nature of the material world. In the material world, every object undergoes 6 transformations. Shadvikar. Jayate, everything takes birth. Asti, stays for some time. Vardhate, increases. Viparinamate, gets transformed. Apakshiyate, it starts getting destroyed. Nashyati, and becomes fully destroyed. English language is currently viparinamate. It is undergoing transformation. So the English that Shakespeare wrote a few hundred years ago cannot be understood today. Today's English will become unrecognizable a few hundred years later. The languages are changing in such a way. Is this a fault of Shakespeare, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji.
But if I falsely start attributing the fault to Shakespeare, then it is my mistake. The fault is the framework in which Shakespeare was writing. So the framework was the English language, which was continuously evolving and which is still continuously evolving. So when the framework itself is not perfect, you cannot expect perfection. In order to have perfection, everything, the framework itself should be perfect. The framework is not perfect, even a pure devotee, when they come, then they may become victims to apparent imperfections. Let me give an example of this. When Sri Ram appeared on this planet, at that point of time, Sri Ram made friends with Sugriva, and their friendship was conditional. Conditional means it began with a condition. The condition was that Sri Ram will help Sugriva kill Bali, his elder brother, and Bali in return will, Sugriva in return will help dispatch his army so that they can find Sita Devi. This was the condition on which the friendship bond was formed. Sri Ram fulfilled his part of the condition. Sri Ram killed Bali. And after Sri Ram killed Bali, Sugriva got the kingdom. After Sugriva got the kingdom, Sugriva could not immediately send his army because Chaturmas had begun, 4 months of rainy season had begun. So Sugriva said, I'll wait for 4 months and then I will send. Sri Ram spent 4 months in separation from Sita Devi. Of course, this was all Leela, pastime. But in those 4 months, Sugriv broke all the regulative principles that you can imagine. Right when Sri Ram's lotus feet were touching the earth, Sri Ram is situated nearby. Sugriv forgot everything. He was drinking. Sugriv took Bali's wife as his own wife. Practically all the regulative principles were broken by Sugriv. After Chaturmas passed, Sugriv forgot about sending his army. So Sri Lakshman had to become angry upon him and remind him. But Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, did Bhagavan reject Sugriv permanently?
No.
No. What is the reason that Bhagavan did not reject Sugriv permanently, even though Sugriv had broken all 4 regulative principles right when Bhagavan is present nearby?
Because he's very merciful and patient by nature.
Okay, that could be one reason. The actual reason is that when Bhagavan accepts somebody, Bhagavan will never let that person go away. When Bhagavan accepts somebody as his eternal associate, that person will never fall down in the material world. Never ever come back to the material world. So once Bhagavan has accepted Sugriv as his eternal associate, no matter what faults the material framework generates, Sugriv is eternally accepted. And Sugriv will never be let go of. So this is what it is. So for this reason, when Bhagavan has accepted somebody as his own, they will never be let go of. Now, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, during initiation, does one's gotra or family lineage change?
Yes. You
And what is
become
the
part of the Acyuta.
Oh, wonderful. So you become part of the Achyuta Gotra. And once you are part of the Achyuta Gotra, will Bhagavan Achyuta let you go and allow you to fall down in the material world like a mundane materialist?
No, he's made a promise to protect you.
All right. So, since Bhagavan has made a promise to protect his devotee, this means that a devotee who has become part of Achyuta Gotra is not going to fall down permanently in the material world like a karmi. Now that we know this thing, now all the faults that are seen in a devotee, let's say even a new devotee who's just initiated and into Achyuta Gotra, what do we have to say about the faults of such a devotee, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu? What can be said?
That they're there while we're in the process of purification, but Bhagavan's going to take care of everything and we should trust in him.
So that person is not like the materialist, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu?
No, they're categorically different.
Oh, wonderful. So this devotee is categorically different from the karmis. So since this devotee is categorically different, therefore this devotee should not be treated in the same category as the materialist. So I'll come back to where we were. Sri Rupa Goswami therefore is distinguishing the river that Sri Rupa Goswami mentioned was a very special river. And which river did Sri Rupa Goswami mention? He mentioned the river Ganga. And Ganga is categorically different from all the other rivers. Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, what is categorically different in the river Ganga? Can you please tell me?
It's a holy river.
It's a holy river. And why is it holy? Because it has, what has it? What is so holy about the Ganga?
It originates from the washing of Bhagavan Sri Vamanadeva's feet, and then it descends onto the head of Shivaji.
Okay, so it has touched the lotus feet of Bhagavan. So this devotee also has touched the lotus feet of Shri Bhagavan. What is the difference? This devotee also has become member of the Achyuta Gotra. This devotee is not like the mundane materialist. Therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami's example here is about the flow of the Ganga. Gangam bhasam na khalu budbuddha phena pankais. You can see Ganga in the rainy season. And in the rainy season, all the faults, apparent faults become visible in the Ganga. And in the rainy season, you can see all these faults, budbuddha, bubbles, phena, foam, panka, other dirt. And this is an image from the ghats of the Ganga. This is an image near Dashashwamedh Ghat. So this is in the rainy season. Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, should I take a bath in Ganga even though I see the Ganga like this?
Yes.
Yes. Because it does not diminish the spiritual value of the Ganga. And another reason is Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, immediately after the rainy season, which season is going to arrive?
I'm not sure.
Autumn. And in the autumn season, what happens to all the waters naturally?
It's all cleansed.
So in the autumn season, the waters of the Ganga will very soon be cleansed. The analogy that Sri Rupa Goswami has given of Ganga in the rainy season, she appears to have dirt, bubbles, etc. But rainy season is not going to last forever. Immediately after the rainy season is Sharad Ritu, autumn season. And in the autumn season, Sharad Ritu, all the flaws of waters are immediately washed away. How are they washed away? Does anybody come and wash away those waters? Does anybody come and cleanse those waters? Nobody does that. The waters themselves have the capability of cleansing themselves because the waters are constantly flowing, because the waters are constantly moving. In this way, the devotee is also constantly progressing. Right now, you may be seeing rainy season in the life of the devotee. But as long as the devotee is progressing, as long as the devotee has not given up on the path completely, till that point of time, the progress is ongoing and continuous. And just as the flow of the waters have the capability of purifying the waters, similarly, the progressive movement of the devotee, progressive advancement of the devotee on the path of bhajan, it has the capability of making the devotee's body and the devotee's svabhav completely pure. For this reason, nobody attributes a fault in the Ganga. And for this reason, nobody should attribute a permanent fault in the devotee. Because the fault will be washed away. But your criticism of the fault will remain forever on the internet. Therefore, when your criticism will still be there, but that fault will be washed away, then who will take care of that criticism? Who will rectify that criticism? Because it is very easy to criticize and post an article about, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu on the internet. I may write an article today, the sensational expose of Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu's character. Today I may
write tilak on.
Oh yeah, today I saw him without a tilak. This is only the first of the many transgressions that I have seen in him. So I will write an article today. Maybe today, rainy season is going on in his life. But tomorrow autumn will come. But what will happen to that article? That article will stay forever. Even though autumn season has arisen in Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu's life, even though he has become, his faults have been cleared, still that article will remain on the internet. Now that article will start harming me, the person who wrote the accusation. Therefore, it is important that we should not see prākṛtatvam or mundaneness in the devotee. Sri Harisuri a commentator on the 10th canto in Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, faults can be found even in Bhagavan. And there are many people who find faults even in Bhagavan, in the Vaishnavas, in the Ganga, etc. One solution you should try. And what is the solution? He says, this solution everybody can, implement in their lives. He composes a verse in his commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam, same as Shad Goswami Ashtakam. Swarnadyamati puti gandha salila sparsha kare chaindave sparsha shudra tatera bhaksha bhajana sakti katham pavake arke durasa samgrahanusaranam चेत्याद्य सत्प्रश्न कृन् मूर्खोऽस्मिन् इति जानता प्रभुकृतौ वाच्यं न वाच्यं क्वचित्. He says, some people ask stupid questions. How can the Ganga carry putrid water with itself? Why does the Ganga become, full of faults? Why does the Ganga become dirty? Some other people ask, how can the karas means rays, kara also means hands, of the moon is known as Dvijaraj, the king of the Brahmanas. How can the moon shine also upon the homes of the Shudras? How can the rays of the moon touch the homes of the Shudras or the fallen people in society? How can Agni, fire, consume rejected foodstuffs? And how can the sun absorb foul substances such as urine, stool, etc.? Some people have these stupid questions in their mind. Sri Harisuri says these are people who are fault finders. They will find faults even with Ganga, with the moon, with Agni, and with the sun. Now, if you have such a nature, he says, a person who is used to asking such foolish questions may freely do so. But when it comes to the Lord's pastimes, such a person should understand very simple thing. I am a fool, and never raise any such doubts. The least that we can do is tell ourselves that I am a fool, number one, incapable of understanding certain spiritual matters. And don't try to raise such doubts on the Vaishnavas, on Ganga, on Agni, on Surya, etc. Why? Mahaprasade Govinde, Nam Brahmani Vaishnave, Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate. O Maharaj Yudhishthir, those who have little piety, not too much piety, very little piety, they cannot easily put faith in the Vaishnavas. They cannot put faith in the Vaishnavas. So those whom you see are repeat fault finders in the characters of the Vaishnavas. You have to understand that they are like that because of one reason. And what is that reason? Swalpa Punya Vatam. The Punya, their piety is very little. They have not yet gained that devotional piety of having faith in the Vaishnavas. Maybe in another life they will gain. Sometimes it is not possible in this life. Maybe in another life they will gain that piety. But when they will gain that piety, all that criticism on the internet that they had done in their previous lives, that will come back to them, dear devotees, when they will themselves become sadhus. And they will have other people hounding them and criticizing them on the internet. So we do not want that to happen to us. We want to live a happy life of bhajan and seva. Therefore, we should try to ensure that we never have doubts. Just as the flow of the Ganga is in the monsoon season, but it very soon clears up by its own flow. It clears itself up in the autumn season. Similarly, we should also know that in the body or in the nature of a Vaishnava, there may be some apparent faults. As long as these are not criminal faults, we should understand that simply by the flow of devotional service in the body of the devotee, all these faults will be cleansed off. And we should also understand that these faults are arising due to the defective framework of the material world. Mainly these faults are arising due to the defective framework of the material world. Having said that, I'd like to pause my speech. I'm not done yet. Next time, I'd like to give further elaborations on how to avoid fault finding, especially with the Vaishnavas, and what to do if we have found faults in the characters of Vaishnavas previously. But here I'd like to pause, dear devotees. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit vidvamsah purayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad guroreva me nahi. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit. It is possible that I might have many faults. But whatever faults I have displayed here while speaking, vidvamsah, you are all learned devotees, purayantu tat. Please correct those faults. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit. But if you saw anything nice in the presentation, please remember, tad guroreva. It belongs to my Guru Janas. Me nahi. It never belongs to me. It belongs to my all perfect Guru Janas. Me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Thank you, Dameshwar Mahaprabhu. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for a really enlightening talk. So relevant and just excellent guidance for us all. So we'll transition now to questions and answers. And I'll just call on people one at a time. Try to leave room for everyone because we usually have a lot of questions in limited time. And we can always come back to you if you have further questions.
Yeah.
So we will begin with Jai Dwarka Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Once
My-
again, thank you so much Prabhuji for such a wonderful presentation.
My pranam, Shru. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yes, and every time I hear you, Prabhuji, my appreciation for increases manifold. Every time you present Siddhanta in such a authentic and unique way. So I'm very, very much elated every time I hear you, Prabhuji.
You know, all the
Prabhuji,
all the authenticity, it is coming from by quoting the previous acharyas. If you remove everything from the previous acharyas, all the authenticity in the presentation will be lost. So all that authenticity that you are ascribing to me is actually coming from Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Vyasadeva, and all these acharyas. But thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yes, please go ahead and ask.
Yes, that is the real glory, Prabhuji, of a disciple, that he always quotes the acharya. So that is the real glory to you, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, my question in this regard was that where you explained that those faults of the material nature, like krodha and sheda, parishrama, asatya. So, Prabhuji, there you mentioned each and every dosha individually, and then you said that they can be found actually even in a perfected devotee. So, Prabhuji, my question in this case was that although they can be found in a perfected devotee, but there are two differences in such cases. One is of the subject matter, for example, of the krodha. The devotee, perfected devotee, may be becoming angry for a Lord's service, just like Hanumanji, and a normal materialistic person may be getting angry for something else. One is subject matter, and at the same time for the khed, for not being able to do service of the Lord, and other materialistic is getting khed for his own self gratification.
Right.
One is subject matter, and second thing is these faults, although found in devotee, will be temporarily. The frequency of the fault will be reduced in case of a perfected being.
Right.
So they may be occasional. He may be getting lusty occasionally, like once in a blue moon. He may be feeling like that. So these two are the prominent distinct differences. So how do we equate them, Prabhuji?
All right. Therefore, when I listed those 18 faults, I said, don't only take the purest devotee, take also the devotee who is on the lowest common denominator of devotional service that you have seen. So take both these devotees and you will see even if in the pure devotee, the frequency is very rare, but still even one fault is a fault. On a white cloth, a small dot is also seen prominently. So even though the devotee may be, absolutely pure in their motivations and, maybe fully dedicated to Bhagavan, but even in the case of those devotees, sometimes even that apparent fault, although rarely, is seen. The entire point of saying that was that it is the defect of the framework of the material world sometimes. Yes, obviously, in the new devotee, the question of intention is also there. The new devotee may intentionally have those faults. But as I said, whether intentional or occasional, as long as the river is flowing, something is going to happen, Jai Dwarka Prabhu. What is going to happen when the river is flowing?
So dirt is going to come and again it is going to be cleansed.
Yeah. So in some cases, the river may appear very dirty. In some cases, the river may not appear so dirty. But as long as the river is flowing, autumn will arrive. And when autumn will arrive, the faults will be cleansed. And when I quoted Srila Sridhar Swami, he says, Uttamo Bhavishyati. Gradually, he will become such a devotee. Also, Prakrita Bhakta will also become Uttama. That also Srila Sridhar Swami had said. So as long as the devotee is progressing on their path, there is obviously no issue. But both from the highest to the lowest, the material world, the framework, the defective framework of the material world is going to cause issues. I hope at least that much, was clear. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next we have Dibayan Mukherjee.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank
Pranam.
you for a very wonderful class. Actually, I was just beginning to have some doubts, and this class was like perfect timing in my life. That's what I can say. So my question is, again, from that same slide on 18 faults, you were also talking about how it can be present in a pure devotee also. And I don't remember, but mistake and illusion, maybe it was in that list. So we have learned that these 4 defects are there. And Baddha Jivas have the 4 defects, and once liberated, no more the 4 defects are there. So how to understand this? Can you explain?
Wonderful. So this will be a subject matter of the next discussion, that in the writings of the Acharyas, in the writings of the Gurujanas, if we sometimes see spelling mistakes, if we sometimes see grammatical errors, how do we understand? Because Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan is going out to bring the Siddhanta. I'll be quoting Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan there. So this was about Swabhav and Vapu, nature and body. I will also be taking up writings or teachings. In the teachings of the Acharyas, if sometimes you detect an apparent discrepancy, how do you treat that? That will also be taken up. But that's a sensitive subject matter, because we have been told that 4 defects don't exist in the writings of the perfected individuals. And Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan gets to the root of that in his discussion on 4 defects. So, Dipayan Prabhu, can a pure devotee make a spelling mistake? Question.
Yes.
That is pramad. That is what pramad means, inattention. So, potentially, if a spelling mistake can be made by a pure devotee, one of the 4 defects is present. How do we understand this? But you'll have to wait it out for 1 week. So are you willing to wait 1 week, Dipayan Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, sure. Right. So these 4 defects and those 18 faults, they're different? Or
obviously, the 4 defects categorization is different and the 18 faults are different. But 18 are major faults in the framework of the material world. Sri Rupa Goswami says, Ashtadasha Mahadoshai Rahita Bhagavat Tanu. Only Bhagavan's body is free of these 18 faults. So other bodies still have those 18 faults. So how do we understand? Sometimes then when we see issues such as spelling errors, grammar errors, etc., do we close our eyes and say, no, everything is perfect? Do we say, no, change the dictionary or change the grammar? Or what do we say when we see such things in the writings of pure devotee? Because some individuals say change the dictionary. If the pure devotee wrote a spelling which is not correct, we should change the dictionary. So, some people are like that. So what should we do when we come across this? So we will deal with that in the next session. But thank you very much, Prabhu, for bringing up the point.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Next we have Kamala Devi Mataji.
Oh, yes.
Hare Krishna, Babuji. Our respectful obeisances to you and all the Vaishnavas, Babuji. So, absolutely mesmerizing class, Babuji, as usual. And we are very fortunate to hear this time online. So, Babuji, as you touched upon the very, very important aspect of a devotee's life, like fault finding. So I was thinking, Prabhuji, as you mentioned that this faults, like majorly those 18 faults, are there into pure devotee as well. But I know my question might be, I don't know what it might come to, but is there any, like, first of all, where did fault finding propensity comes from? Basically, where it arises, right? And is there any way that we can eradicate from the arising itself, rather than finding and then prevention? I hope I'm trying to express what I'm trying to convey. So basically, like, it's prevention is better than cure, right?
Right.
So I'm going into that part, that how we can, like, okay, when it starts arising, stop. It should not be arising itself. But we have no control over mind, especially for me and like our devotees like us. So how is there, like, what do you suggest, like, where it arises, and how is there any way to eradicate?
Right. So the question is of two parts. How does perception of faults arise, and how to eradicate at its root? Is there some vaccination that we can take so that our vision becomes free of fault finding? So how it arises, I explained during the talk that we have a certain set ideal. These may be ideal personalities or ideal behavior. I showed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. So we have a perfectionist vision of, things in our mind. And then when we see less than perfect, anything less than perfect, that is where the fault finding propensity comes into us. The permanent solution is to enter a world in which everything is perfect. That is the permanent solution. You see, in this material world, the highest is sattva guna, mode of goodness. And then not so highest are rajoguna, tamoguna. As soon as we detect something which is not sattva guna, we perceive rajoguna and tamoguna also as a fault in the material world. This is our tendency. Imagine entering into a world where everything is Shuddha Sattva Guna. There is no lower mode and higher mode. There's only one mode, that is Shuddha Sattva. And whether people are fighting there or quarreling there, or people are, whether Krishna is stealing there or doing whatever, all those activities are belonging to only one mode of nature, Shuddha Sattva. So nothing will be a fault, because our perception will not be tinged by, these hierarchy of gunas. Today, our perception is tinged by the hierarchy of gunas. And therefore, we perceive what we call faults in others. And therefore, Rupa Goswami also says it is not possible to permanently stop perceiving faults. Drishtai, the verse begins with Drishtai. Hindi, Dikh Jane Par. English, on seeing. So on seeing, Rupa Goswami is also saying, on seeing the faults, which means he is also acknowledging that faults will be seen. So faults will be seen, but our perception can be changed towards them. And that is what Sri Rupa Goswami is saying. This is the solution as long as we are in the material world. Permanent solution is to go to a world where nothing is faulty, where the framework itself is perfect. And when the framework is perfect, when there are no 6 transformations, taking birth, existing, transforming, increasing, dwindling, destruction, these 6 changes are not there in the spiritual world. Nobody takes birth there. Nobody, grows beyond a certain age there. They all have one age. So when these 6 faults will not be there. So all the defects caused by the 6 faults, caused by lower modes such as Rajogun and Tamogun will not be there. And there will be no question of fault finding. So even if you will find faults there, that will be for Leela, for adding to the pastimes of Bhagavan, not due to enviousness. So that is the answer to your query. So I hope that satisfies your query. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Kamaniya Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Kamala Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Next we have Bishwadeep Roy Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the class. I have a question that if we mix wine with Ganga, will it affect Brahmadravatva of Ganga or not?
Prabhu, even if you mix a dead body with Ganga, it doesn't affect Ganga.
Okay.
There are dead bodies floating in the Ganga. It doesn't affect the Ganga. But, Ganga has the capability to purify everything. But does not mean that, you mix the wine immediately with Ganga. You take 1 glass of wine and you put 1 drop of Ganga and then you say, now the wine is drinkable. Not like that. Not like that. Right? Because some people may take undue advantage of this fact. When Ganga is flowing in her full flow, right? At that point of time, if you mix something, a very tiny quantity of impurity, Ganga will immediately wash it away. That is the meaning of that. So I hope it clarifies. Right?
Next we have Dhananjay Tiwari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharan Pranam. Many
My
thanks for great session. My question was, we were particular about to the Vaishnavas, and is this philosophy limited only to Vaishnavas, or indirectly, if we say some Shaiviks, Bhaktas, a Vaishnavas devotee or followers, if outside Vaishnavism, if we practice this due to certain scenarios where we have to debate with them and show them, where it is wrong.
Right.
How would this still apply?
See, the thing is, when we are dealing with individuals who are not bhaktas, because Sri Rupa Goswami is saying bhakta-janasya. In the verse, Sri Rupa Goswami specified that his intention was mainly towards the devotees, bhakta-janasya pashyet. But there are those who are not Hari Bhaktas, they may be devotees of other deities. We respect everybody. So there is no disrespect or character assassination of somebody should not happen. But at the same time, if there are some defects in the philosophy, then those defects should be pointed out. And that sort of a dialogue is healthy, where the character assassination of somebody else does not happen. So if the character assassination is not taking place, then we can point out flaws in the philosophy. That is okay. But somebody's character assassination should is not the tendency of a person who is trying to advance in their bhajan. So this a Vaishnav should take care of. So I hope that clarifies. Thank you.
Next we have Parag Bakshi.
Yeah, Pitambar Gaurang Prabhu. Very good.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandvat Pranam.
My pranam,
Thank
Shri.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you for the class. Prabhuji, I wanted to ask you that, not seeing the faults, sometimes, not seeing the faults of devotees or in general people is easier when you have not been affected by those faults. But if you have personally faced a lot of physical or emotional trauma because of those faults, and you continue to see those still, continue to see those faults, then how do you not continue to be affected by it and remove that grudge or that pain which you have in your heart?
All right. So Sri Rupa Goswami does not say not seeing the fault. Rupa Goswami says you see the fault. The fault is there. But Sri Rupa Goswami says that as long as the person in whom the fault was perceived, the devotee in whom the fault was perceived, is still somehow progressing on the path. Maybe progressing in a very basic way, but still somehow progressing. At some point of time, maybe in this life or the next life, the fault will be driven away. Some faults are minor faults and will be driven away in this life. Some faults are very major faults. It may take some lifetimes to be driven away. So it is called Dehantar Prayaschitta. Dehantar Prayaschitta means, removing of a fault by changing of body. So some faults require Dehantar. Dehantar means they require that particular individual to take another body. For example, Shri Brahma, when he was creating material creation, he had to give up his material body many times and accept a new body, because during creation many faults arose within his own body. It is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When he created the demons became lusty, so lusty that Brahmaji got, personally he felt affected that this demon, this creation is very bad. And Brahmaji gave up that body. It's described in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. So sometimes some faults may be, we may be personally affected by some other devotee's faults. And it is, when it hurts us, it is definitely, it is very serious. But we should know that maybe in the next life or maybe in a few lives, even that devotee will be cleansed of that fault, and that devotee may have to undergo some difficulty or suffering because of that major fault or the major abuse which they inflicted upon others. But I would like to ask a question to you, Pitambar Gaurang Prabhu. Let's say that particular devotee has suffered and has also, over lifetimes, or maybe one lifetime or 2 lifetimes. After suffering for 1 or 2 lifetimes or multiple lifetimes, do they not deserve to be cleansed of that fault? That is what I would like to ask.
Yeah, definitely, Prabhu. They deserve to be cleansed.
Right.
My question was more pertaining to what do I do?
You can only do one thing, that if you still feel negative towards a particular individual, or not you or we, if somebody has done it against us and if we feel negative towards a particular individual, we can keep a distance from them so that our communication, our contact, with such an individual is reduced to almost 0. And what we can do is we can try to progress in our own bhajan, while knowing that that particular individual, maybe in this life, maybe in next life, or maybe after some lives, will be purified of that fault. But that is not our headache, when that particular individual will be purified of their fault. But if that particular fault is of a serious, if any particular devotee has exhibited a very serious fault which is of a criminal nature, then that particular fault should be definitely reported to a competent authority. But having done that, we have done our swadharma, our duty of reporting to a competent authority, and then after that we should perform our bhajan, although recovery will take some time, and we should let that person also continue in their bhajan, and while keeping as less contact as possible. So that is my answer to your query.
Next we have Omkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Pranam.
My pranams.
Prabhuji, you put it about this prākṛta bhakta. So I was reading in the Sandarbhas, like in Bhakti Sandarbha, I think at some place, I think in some commentary, or I think Jiva Goswami, it is mentioned that prākṛta bhakta can also mean a person who has a laukika shraddha. Because the point is he hasn't taken initiation. Because the point is by the act of taking initiation, he is respecting at least one Vaishnava. So by that point, we can see that he has some other towards Vaishnava. So in that way, could we also say that it belongs to a person who has a laukika shraddha, like he has a devotion for Lord Vishnu, but hasn't taken the serious, you could say, as a sadhaka rule point.
Yeah. Different acharyas have explained that differently. I remember he says ajata shraddha, something, that term he used. Ajata shastriya shraddha, ajata prema, ajata shastriya shraddha. That is the term he uses in the commentary. I remember having read that. The thing is, even if he is such a person, as long as they are coming in contact with the Vaishnavas, their good fortune has begun. And as long as they're willing to continue that association with the Vaishnavas, their good fortune will continue to increase and the Ganga will continue to flow in their lives, purifying them. So, because what will happen if I draw very strict boundaries, only initiated, we should start applying this verse only for after initiation, then I don't think that is the mood of the term bhakta-janasya. The mood of the term bhakta-janasya is anybody who has even started chanting one naam of Bhagavan. So that is what is the mood. So I hope that clarifies. Therefore, Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary I took because, that is the plain vanilla commentary which applies to all circumstances. Right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank you, bro. All
Thank
the verses actually reflected in all the acharyas and gurus, starting
Thank
from
you.
Rupa
Thank you.
Goswami to my Gurujinas.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Holy shit.
Next we have Shant Madhusudan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Gauri, Tano Pranam.
My pranams.
Thank you so much, Gauri, for this wonderful and nectarian lecture. Prabhuji, my question regarding this is that you said that river Ganga cleans its water after the rainy season and gradually it cleanses completely the water. Similarly, the Vaishnava or that have fault, if he's under the process of bhakti, he gradually cleanses his heart and he.
Hi, you went on mute again, Shant Madhusudan Prabhu. Please unmute yourself. Haribol?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please continue.
Yes. Okay, so my question is that like river Ganga cleans its water constantly, and in the autumn season it completely cleans its water. Similarly, a devotee who has fault in him, if he is under the process of bhakti, he gradually cleanses. So my question is that if should we settle with the idea that if we found some fault in some devotee, so shall we settle with the idea that faults are bound to be seen in this material world, faults are bound to be here in any personality, or should we settle with the idea that he is continuing bhakti, so faults will be one day completely vanish from him? So
both ideas are there in the verse itself, right? Nira dharmai. It's the nature of water to become dirty. So it's the nature of the material world to induce faults. That is what. Iha. Rupa Goswami said, na prākṛtatvam iha. What does iha mean, Shant Madhusudan Prabhu?
I'm not sure.
Iha, here in this material world.
Yes.
So he said, iha, in this material world. Obviously, nira dharmai. It's the nature of water to become dirty. Iha. Swabhava janita iva pushascha doshair. Iha, in this world only, you will see Swabhava and Vapudosh. So it is the nature of the material world. And therefore I quoted Caraka Samhita. What causes faults in the body? What causes faults in the mind? It is the nature of the material world to generate faults, unlimited faults. So that is what. Yeah.
This is not possible that one can completely get in this material world.
Obviously.
While being in this material.
No. Forget about complete perfection in the material world. All Prabhupada also used to say, forget about utopia in the material world. Forget about it. It's not possible. Therefore, I want to remove this, false conception that absolute perfection of the spiritual world is possible in a material body. It's not possible. Absolute perfection of a spiritual world is possible in a spiritual body. Let's be honest about it. So, as long as you are in the framework of the material world, you will see some faults generated by the defective framework. That is obviously not going to. So, that is one perspective. Another perspective is, it is Bhakti Devi which is cleansing the faults. Shant Madhusudan Prabhu, Bhakti Devi belongs to which world?
Spiritual world.
Obviously. Ganga belongs to which world?
Spiritual world.
So it's the nature of entities of spiritual world to cleanse away faults of the material world.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, and you said that the water of Ganga is the nature of to get dirty also. Get dirty.
Does the water of the Ganga get dirty in the spiritual world?
Yes.
Yes, in the spiritual world.
In only one mode that you mentioned in some of your answer before, that Krishna stealing in Shuddha Sat, everything that
No. In the spiritual world, does the water of the Ganga? No. So, similarly, just as the waters of the Ganga don't get dirty in the spiritual world, similarly, the devotees, they don't have any issues in the spiritual world. The issues are caused by the framework of the material world. So the faults that you see in the devotees, they are mainly because of the framework. And as long as the process is continuing, they are getting freed from those faults. One day they will be completely free of those faults. But by that time, they will have gotten a new identity. The discussion of the new identity is going to come up in subsequent verses. So, when the devotee gets the new identity, Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura will describe how to get a new identity. We'll discuss all of that in the verses that will come up. So, how do you get yourself a brand new body in the spiritual world, which is free of these 18 faults? All right.
Oh, yes, sorry. I'm waiting for that. Thank you so much, Puri, for your answer.
Thank you.
My
friends.
Next, I have a question, Prabhuji.
Okay.
I looked up prakrtah bhakta in Vani quotes and found a lot of instances where Srila Prabhupada translates it as materialistic devotee.
Right.
Even specifies prakrtah means on the material platform.
Right.
How do we resolve that?
Right. So, not only that, even in the BBT translation, you will see materialistic devotee. But Srila Sridhar Swami wants to harmonize all the statements of Shastra. Because once we start seeing them as, you can translate prakrtah directly as materialistic, obviously. But then how will we harmonize it with Srila Rupa Goswami's statement, na prākṛtatvam? So sometimes immediately you may say prakrtah means like a materialistic devotee. He may seem like a materialistic devotee, but he is not exactly a materialist. Even though he may externally seem like a materialistic person, he has not exactly become a materialistic person. So that is the difference. And Srila Sridhar Swami does away with the entire prakrtah by taking another meaning of prakrtah. So you don't have to, fall into these subtleties of interpretation. Srila Sridhar Swami makes it very clear that prakrtah means one who has begun his bhakti. That is the meaning of prakrtah. Because a devotee is specifically somebody who has taken initiation into Achyuta Gotra. They are members of Achyuta Gotra. So basically, they can never be materialists, or they can never be mundane in that sense. So that is the reason why a commentary which helps us harmonize the statements of the various acharyas is important. When Srila Prabhupada translated it as materialistic, or when he spoke of that, the intention is to convey the immediate sense of the term. The intention is not to harmonize all the statements from everywhere. Here our intention is to harmonize all the statements from all the acharyas. So although it is called apatatah, immediately it may appear that prākṛtatvam can be translated as materialistic. On trying to harmonize the statements, we will have no choice but to take the interpretation of prākṛtatvam as a beginner. So that is the answer to the query. So I hope that satisfies.
Yes, very elegant answer. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
And I think we haven't taken a question from Anusha Mole. Yes, so go with him or her.
Yeah, Anusha Mataji. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with Anusha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you so much for this lecture. I'm very much inspired by your Upadeshamritam lectures. When I hear it, I am very much inspired. Thank you for this. I have a question that in the beginning, when you mentioned about the commentary of Srila Bhaktivinode Thakurji, you mentioned that there Bhaktivinode Thakurji writes that the pure devotees, we should not see any faults except it is if it is Harinam Aprad. And in the Rupa Goswami ji verse, where we see in the main verse, there we don't find any specific mention of pure devotee. It can be a general devotee also who is in the beginning level. So does that apply to the beginning level devotee also, that we shouldn't of Harinam Aprad, because the beginning devotee may be committing the Harinam Aprad?
Yeah. So Srila Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinode Thakur said, in a pure devotee, you will not see Nam Aparad, etc. You will not see Nam Aparad. And if their Nam Aparad is being seen, then such an individual is not a pure devotee. Even if they are not a pure devotee, they should not become subject matter of one's criticism, public criticism. Correction can be done in private by those who are their gurus, but public criticism of any such devotee is never permissible. In general, there is no scope for critiquing or fault finding a devotee in public, and in private also fault finding is done mainly by the Gurujanas. So that is the answer to your query.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Paramakaruna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. That's nice. Prabhuji, my question is regarding this. You said a criminal activity, you made a distinction there. And my question is, how do we define criminal activity? I'm not asking for a definition, but the general sense is kind of, how do we know? Because that seems to differ by like law of the land. And sometimes, some things are very clear, maybe, killing or sexual harassment and those things. But on many other things, the law is not very clear as well, or I may not be the lawyer to know that, like maybe, hitting somebody, or, in here, if you lift your hand on your own child is a criminal, but in India, for example, not. My father beat me a few times. I could have reported him there, but I don't, that wasn't the law. Anyway, my question there is that more for ourselves, like how do we tell ourselves that this is not something criminal, or we may think that this may be criminal, but overlook it, move on with your own bhajan, like you said, distance yourself.
Yeah. I understood. Yeah. I understand. When I say criminal, I didn't mean criminal by modern law. According to Dharma Shastra, it should not be Mahapatak or Patak. So there are categories in Dharma Shastra called as Mahapatak, Mahapatak, drinking wine, killing a Brahmana, killing a Vaishnava. So these are more Mahapataks. So these are what I refer to by criminal. Modern law of land it doesn't have any standhold in when it comes to laws which are, because see, reaction of karma comes not by law of land. Reaction of karma comes by law of the Vedas. So what are defined as Mahapatak and Pataka, or Mahapatak is great fall down, Pataka is fall down. There are categories described in Dharma Shastra, Mahapatak, Patak, etc. So according to that, criminal activities are defined. If somebody has committed Mahapatak, Mahapatak means killing of a cow, killing of a Brahmana, killing of a Vaishnava, even though they are a Vaishnava. So they, such cases cannot be, you cannot say that, na prākṛtatvam iha bhakta-janasya pashyate. I said those things should not fall under this. Although the verse ultimately applies, ultimately somebody may say, well, in some life they will get cleared of this. Mahapatakas are, paradara. Paradara means somebody else's wife, somebody lustfully tries to interact with. So this is Mahapatak. Mahapatak is, one should know these things. These Mahapatakas as defined in Shastra should be taken. So no, I was not speaking about law of land. Law of land so is different, and the categorization of Patakas in Shastra is different. So I was speaking about those activities which give a negative reaction according to Shastra. That is what is the answer to your query. I hope that satisfies your query. Right?
Yes.
It's a separate discussion altogether about Patak and Mahapatak, but I can't get into it in this Upadeshamritam. But there is a separate discussion about it. Right? Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Next we have Dipayan Prabhu.
Prabhuji, while explaining the pastime of Sugriva, you said that once Bhagavan accepts somebody, he will never leave. And you told about initiated devotee also.
Right.
So my question is, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Rupa Shiksha, that Hati Mata Aparad, it is told that it destroys the Bhakti Lata. So how to understand?
Yeah, it destroys, an elephant destroys the Bhakti Lata, but the beej is still there. So it may take a few lifetimes to come out of that, but the beej of Bhakti is still there. That is the answer to your question.
So Bhakti never gets destroyed, even by that Hati Mata Aparad.
A spiritual entity does not undergo 6 transformations, destruction being one of them. It can be temporarily prevented. It can never be fully destroyed. And temporarily prevented, that too in the framework of the material world. So it can never be fully prevented.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
One more question, should I ask later? Or?
Okay, you can ask now. No problem.
Regarding the dosha in the mind, Rajas and Tamas, you quoted Caraka Samhita, even for Brahmaji and Shivji. So in Bhagavatam, that one shloka is there, Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava. So in that, Cheta Etair Anavidham Sthitam Satve Prasidati. So how to understand the two concepts?
So the question is that sometimes Rajogun and Tamogun become dominant even on great personalities. But Srimad Bhagavatam says, Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lobha Dayascha Cheta Etair Anavidham. What is the meaning of the term Anavidham, Prabhuji? Can you tell me?
Like what I've read is that even though Rajas and Tamas is present, it cannot affect the person.
What is the meaning of?
I understand.
What is the meaning of Vidha?
Pierced.
That much I don't know, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So these terms basically are specified in Shastra. The exact terms that are specified in Shastra, we should, very clearly understand. When it means Vidha, Vidha basically means Badhita. Badhita means basically prevented by. So cheta etair anavidham. So our consciousness cannot be, prevented or cannot be trapped by these two modes. What are these two modes? Rajas and Tama, and Kama and Lobha. The consciousness cannot be fully trapped in this. Sattve prasidati. The consciousness starts taking pleasure in Sattva Guna. Sometimes they may still have their temporary effects, and the acharyas compare those effects to the fangs of a toothless snake. Nonetheless, the fangs are still there. And those conditions arise temporarily, but the devotee knows how to deal with those things. So that is the answer to the query. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Next we have Bhishmadeep Roy Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have a question which is out of the context to today's class. Can I ask it, or will ask you personally?
All right. You can specify the question, what it is.
Yeah, actually, wait. Actually, today I had some discussion with a devotee. So discussion, he told that about what is jnana. So he told that jnana is only, we can get jnana only through Paramatma, and not through Guru, not through any Shastra. And I told we can get through Guru also. He said no, that is only information. Through Shastra also, that is only information, but only through Paramatma we can get. And I mentioned the words that that in Diksha also, that is Divya Gyan we get. But he said no, that also we should get from Paramatma. We cannot get. So actually, I had doubt what is the definition of Gyan, and can we get it from others, means from Guru and from Shastra, or it is only through Krishna that we can get Gyan, because Krishna says that Gyan comes from me in Bhagavad Gita. So that is my question.
See, in the material world, for every particular event, karya, an event is called karya. There is a cause, karana. The causes are categorized into two types, nimitta karana and upadan karana. You know what is the nimitta, what is the meaning of the term nimitta and upadan karana?
Yes.
So, upadan karana means the original substantial cause, and nimitta is the instrumental cause. For those who don't know, just like when a potter makes a pot, so pot is the effect created, and there are two causes of the effect. What are the two causes? First is the clay. The clay is the upadan karan, the substantial cause, and the potter, the wheel, are the nimitta karan, the instrumental causes of creation of the pot. So this is called upadan karan, original substantial cause, and nimitta karan, instrumental cause. So when any knowledge arises within you, the original substantial cause is Bhagavan. Matta smritir jnanam, he says in Bhagavad Gita. All knowledge
Even
arises.
materialistic.
Obviously. Even that which is agyan, that also arises from him. Everything arises from him. So everything arises, that in Ishopanishad also it says that knowledge and ignorance, both basically. So everything arises from him. But the thing is, we also need a nimitta karan, instrumental cause. Now, who is the instrumental cause of that knowledge? That instrumental cause is contact with the Guru, contact with a Shastra. That is the instrumental cause. So it seems that in this discussion, the subtlety of nimitta and upadan karan was not discussed, which needs to be discussed again. So maybe next time you meet them, you can ask them what is the upadan karan and nimitta karan of arising of gyan. All right.
Yeah, and we also had a discussion about what is the definition of Gyan. So he said that only information and something. He said.
See, I'll very clearly show you. Jiva Goswami says in his commentary to Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, he says very clearly in 1.1.11. He says Jnanam atra. He says, what is the meaning of Jnanam? Nirbheda Brahma Anusandhanam. What is the meaning of Jnana? Nirbheda Brahma Anusandhan. to inquire into the impersonal Brahman. Meaning of jnana, is that jnana. The technical term jnana in Jnana Yoga means nirbheda brahmanusandhan, to inquire into the impersonal Brahman. That is what is the meaning of jnana. In general, jnana means any knowledge, but the technical term jnana in Vedanta means nirbheda brahmanusandhan. That is the meaning. All right. Just quote directly Sri Jiva Goswami. They are a devotee, they should accept. That's all.
Sure.
Next we have Ananga Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for such a wonderful class again. My question is just like this material setup is defective, and devotees come together for performing the Nam Bhajan and other devotional activities. And because of this defective material setup and this doshas in them, we are tend to commit aparadhas, and because of Rajoguna, Tamoguna, there is friction in devotees. So how to deal, just like we need not to see the fault because they will rectify in the due course of time. But immediately we are getting affected by those things. And if we raise the voice, it is seen as some aparadh. So how to deal in such a situation?
In any situation, if it is disturbing your bhajan, if it is disturbing your bhakti, and if even trying to genuinely, you're trying to address the situation, but it is hampering your bhakti even further. At any point of time, you have a choice. The choice is to minimize contact with the source of disturbance. At any point of time, you have a choice. You are not bound to associate with any source of disturbance in your bhajan. A personality whom we have chosen as our guide, authority, guru, shiksha, we have chosen them because they are helping us in our bhajan. But if they become a source of disturbance for any reason whatsoever, Sri Jiva Goswami says in Bhakti Sandarbha, Durata eva aradhya, dur se aradhana, from a distance worship them, which means minimize contact with such an individual while not disrespecting them in any way. So you always have a choice. Bhakti was a voluntary process. Let nobody make you feel that you need to do something in order to progress. All right. It was voluntary. You took it up voluntarily. So your participation is also voluntary. So participate voluntarily. When I do something voluntarily, I would rather do something which will improve my bhajan. Otherwise, I'll not do it. First and foremost, I say sometimes, you come to devotional service to become happy. And on top of that, nobody pays you for devotional service. Nobody pays you, and still you end up becoming unhappy. It's either you get money for it, either you get paid for it, and then you can say, oh, the unhappiness is justified. But you don't even get paid for it, and then you're becoming unhappy on top of that. Oh my goodness. So then that is not acceptable at all. It's just, sometimes I jokingly say that. Of course, devotional service is a voluntary process, and you should only, it's said one of the 6 limbs of surrender is pratikulyasya varjanam. Give up what is pratikul to your bhajan. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
And our last question is from Paramakarna Prabhu.
Just I wanted to thank you so much. I wanted to just clarify the fundamental understanding. This verse is very important for me, this whole aspect. So I just want, please correct me if my understanding is incorrect. This bhakta-janasya you mentioned, the way we should understand it is that it pretty much applies to anyone. you said that who has taken the name of Krishna even once, but even other sampradayas, I would extend it. Is it correct if I extend it to other, even Christians, Muslims, they have taken the bona fide name of God once, basically, and we don't know who has taken the name of God or not. So is my takeaway understanding that I'm taking away is that I should, unless I'm the guru, parent, father, whatever, which I am for a very, very few people in this world, everybody else, I should not see them or criticize them or carry any grudge. I should just focus on my bhajan, and everybody else, we should not see any faults.
Yeah.
Is that
See, you will see faults. Artificially we cannot block seeing faults. But character assassination should be avoided. That is the message of the verse. Prākṛtatvam iha bhakta-janasya pashyet. So character assassination of a devotee in one's own mind should also be avoided. Because what is happening is sometimes we assassinate the character of a devotee within our own mind. That is where it starts. And from there we propagate it to others. So better is, we know that this fault is existing in this devotee. Can we do something about it? If yes, then we can privately tell the devotee that this is where you can improve. If they accept our authority, we can tell them this is where you can improve. If they don't accept our authority, then you cannot do anything. But with other sampradayas, or let's say with other forms of religion such as Christianity, etc., we don't have to assassinate the character of anybody, basically. And philosophical differences of opinion should always be discussed. That goshti should always continue, because it's we are, just because we don't want to find faults doesn't mean that we stop discussing the philosophical aspects of a particular religion, form of religion. Like Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura, he was not at all happy with the idea of Christianity. In his I think Tattva Sutra or something like that, he discusses that the idea doesn't make sense that one person will suffer for the sins of everybody in the world. So Tattva Vivek, Tattva Vivek, he says the idea doesn't make sense that one person will suffer for everybody's sins in the world. Such an idea, from the karma point of view, doesn't make sense at all. So, and if that person suffers for the sins of all those who have accepted him, then those people who have accepted him should not have material happiness or material suffering in their lives. But it is seen that even those who are Christians, they are having material distress and happiness in their lives, which means that the karma of a person cannot get transferred to somebody else just like that. So he says this idea doesn't make sense. He says very clearly in the Tattva Vivek. So is he critiquing Jesus Christ there? No. Is he critiquing a particular Christian by name there? No. But he's critiquing that point where the philosophy doesn't match with Vedas. That is the point where he's critiquing. So that should always keep on happening. So we are not against a person, but we are against an idea, any forms of idea which appear to be non-Vedic. That we can definitely critique, but without getting into the personality or character of anybody. So that is what it is. For Jesus Christ, and for let's say for followers of other sampradayas also, like of Vaishnavism, we have all the respect, with no disrespect for the individuals. But for the philosophy, we will have some subtle differences of opinion that we will not hesitate to point out and highlight. So that is what it is. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, dear devotees, thank you so much for your association. What a wonderful class, and so wonderful to be with all of you. Thank you so much, Hari Parsha Prabhu.
Thank you.
It was really enlightening and nourishing class. So happy to be here. I can't say it enough times. But I've asked everyone to unmute so we can give a big thank you to Hari Parsha Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. Hare
Jai.
Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavad pranams.
My pranams, Sachindra Krishna Prabhu. My pranams, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hari Parsha Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
We got a whole commentary going here.
Oh, well, wonderful.
Nice to see you, Paramahansa Prabhu. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much, Rameshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.